At least I can count on Diana. All right, perfect. So we'll start with, thank you guys. Honestly, if you've been with me, you know this is my struggles. I buy real estate much better than I can operate Zoom. I promise you that. And I usually have somebody working in the background, so it's a little bit more seamless. But we'll kick off with the housekeeping. I love seeing everybody's faces, and I really do encourage you to stick around if you are comfortable, but I also understand it is the end of the night and some people just don't enjoy being on Zoom like this. So please show up the way that you feel most comfortable. I recommend that you have a pen and paper handy with you. We are going to be doing a little bit of writing today, and this presentation or workshop is going to take approximately 40 minutes to 1 hour. Just depends if we get into any type of discussion or if I go on some type of tangent. But if you stick around to the end, I promise you I'm going to be sharing some really valuable resources and a special bonus specifically for those here in person. We had 35 people register for this Zoom workshop, so I'm really excited. So if you are watching this at home, then we're going to make sure that you're hooked up as well. But the ones who showed up today, they're going to get some extra goodies. We are going to stick around for questions. If you want, I'll be here until the end, and even just a networking opportunity for those of you who do want to have a little chat. You know me, I'm always happy to network. Okay. Now, if I just have to. So I'm going to start with showing you, so this is a picture of my son and and this was a day that we were comparing who had the most medals. He plays competitive hockey and baseball, and I used to compete at the national level for squash, volleyball, and I even dabbled in powerlifting. So I always like to say, I guess the apple didn't fall too far from the tree. But for as long as I can remember, I have been a driven person, a high achiever. My friends used to call me extreme. That was my nickname. And it's just who I am, but I never channeled it properly. That was the biggest problem. Now, this type of behavior, it gets you a lot of success in my career, my personal life, but for most of my adult life, I really operated without a plan. And so I may have been excelling in areas that I was focused on, but I didn't actually have a purpose or clarity, and I was really spreading myself too thin and feeling burnout. And I'm sure there is a lot of you sitting here today that know exactly what that feels like, that burnout where you're spreading yourself just too thin. I was operating at such a high capacity, but the problem was I was going in so many different directions that it was really leading me nowhere that I actually wanted to be. And research suggests that pursuing a sense of purpose can actually bring about deeper and more enduring forms of happiness. And most of us don't actually know what our purpose is. Most of us are just going forward, but all over. And so we really want, you think of that bullseye. And that's why everybody, when they talk about goals, they have that bullseye, because we want to get really centered and focused in the direction that we're going. So this energy that we're putting out into the world and the capacity that we have to give is getting completely narrowed down, and we're maximizing our efforts. And so, like I said, it really wasn't until I started to get clear on what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go, what my core values in life were, that things really started to skyrocket for me. So you are in the right place if you're a self-starter. You know, you don't need to be told to get up, to go, to do things. You're driven. You're committed to personal growth. And I already know that that applies to you here, because you wouldn't be spending your time if you weren't committed to personal growth to be here. Maybe you're feeling stuck. Maybe you're lacking clarity, lacking focus. You are in the wrong place if you are looking for a quick fix. I am the first one to tell you that this is hard work. It is really challenging to put in that work to get to know who you are, what you represent, what you stand for, what you believe in, and then become so fierce about protecting those values, those beliefs, and your purpose in life. It takes work to get there. If you are satisfied with the status quo, if you're happy where you are in life, then you're not going to do the work or be willing to be uncomfortable, because I promise you, it is going to be work and it is going to be uncomfortable. And these are some of the messages that I tell myself when I'm trying to overcome a challenge and I've set goals for myself that I know are going to be difficult. I talk to myself and I say, you are going to be uncomfortable. I expect the discomfort so that when I'm faced with it, it's not a surprise and I'm strong and I'm able to withstand it or endure it. And that's the messaging that you need to tell yourself, not to flower it up to say that I'm always going to feel motivated, that I'm always going to be determined. That's not the case at all. We need to put things in place in order to make ourselves feel or have systems that we can rely on when we do feel weaker in those moments. And the expectation is what's going to help you set yourself up for success. So the goal of this workshop today is to give you the knowledge, the tools to set up your goals for the next 90 days. That's what I like to focus on. But honestly, if that time frame doesn't work for you, this is holistic. This is a way that you make it work for yourself. And so whatever that time frame is, I will teach you how to identify your goals and then the steps to take to finally follow through. It is easy to identify goals. It's the follow through that everybody struggles with. We all struggle with. I set goals for myself and I don't follow through. I set it here first. It happens. But if there are goals that I am completely committed and determined to achieve, then I follow through with those goals. And so that's what we want to do today. We don't want these willy-nilly, flash in the pan type. I'm trying to think of another word than goals, but I'm just going to keep saying goals tonight because that's why we're here. Goals. We want the things that mean something to us. And that's why we're going to narrow that down. And so at the end of this workshop, I am going to be offering you links to some resources that will help you with this goal setting process, and a special bonus link, like I said, that will just be for those who are here live today. And as also a disclaimer, I'm going to be inviting you to an insanely new revamped program that I have created for anybody that is looking for support and does want to work with me. And so that is never the intent, and I am always here for you. And nobody needs coaching in the long run. You can make it through without it, but it doesn't work that way for everybody. And so I will be your biggest cheerleader. If you are happy going along and you're able to manage all of this on your own, amazing. But if you do look for that type of support and you want to know how we can work together, I will provide that for you today. So let's start answering that question, why 90 days at first? And I like to say about elephants. So have you heard the best way to eat an elephant? And it's really just one bite at a time. And that's what 90 days looks like. So when you think about taking just one bite at a time, instead of thinking about the big picture, how big that elephant is, or if you want to climb a mountain, one step at a time, 90 days represents that to me. It gives you that short-term focus for your long-term vision. So it's just long enough to see substantive results, but it's going to be short enough for you to maintain your focus and that sense of urgency, because we are creatures of habit. We like this gratification. And so when the goal is too far away, we lose that momentum. And so this is going to help balance that bridge between the long-term aspirations and then your immediate actions. It also gives you opportunity for measurable progress. At the end of every quarter, you can actually assess what's been achieved and also what needs to be adjusted in order to keep proceeding forward. If you think about a pilot, for example, if they change their navigation even by just 1 degree, then they can end up in a completely different destination. The 90 days allows you to catch that and then recalibrate in order to stay on track and focused. Momentum, it gives you momentum because you can actually feel a sense of accomplishment within those 90 days, and then you can build on your goals. That's what I like to do. I like to set goals, and then the next quarter, I build on the last set of goals. I'm reflecting, and then I'm building, and it helps me keep that momentum that maybe I would not have been able to maintain for an entire year. I want to check the participants here. So, whoa. Okay. I'm going to have to apologize to a bunch of them that, so if you're joining in here, I'm sorry for your wait in the waiting area. I'm trying to manage the participants coming in at the same time, but welcome. You'll all get recordings, so you'll be able to just watch the first 10 minutes, which was really me struggling trying to get Zoom. So I'm probably going to get that edited out actually now that we speak on that. But anyways, we're going to move into flexibility and adaptability. So the world, think about it, the world changes so quickly, and what seems relevant and crucial to you today, it might not be that way in 90 days time. So this is going to allow you to reevaluate, adapt to your changing circumstances. The goals are, they're supposed to be flexible. We don't always stay exactly the same. So we need to be able to have malleable goals that can adjust as things change in our lives. Increased accountability. This is a really helpful one because it is harder to procrastinate when you know you only have 90 days. 3 months is a pretty short amount of time when you actually break it down, which we will talk about how to do that. The enhanced clarity is really about having a 90-day framework that forces you to be clear about what is actually attainable in that period. We're able to conceptualize 90 days and what we can do in that amount of time, more so than looking at a year, 5 years, 10 years. And now there's arguments to be made about that. There's a popular Elon Musk quote where he says, try to do, I'll butcher it, but something like try to do what you can achieve in 10 years, aim to do it in 6 months. You will no doubtedly fail. You will not get that achievement completed in 6 months, but you are going to be leaps and bounds ahead of whether you gave yourself that 10 years. We often, as humans, just out of human nature, we fill the time. So when you're given a deadline, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate, and maybe, drop a thumbs up in the chat if that's something you relate to. If you're given a deadline, do you take it to the last minute to get your deadline in? It's all about how we look at our time and we fill that space. Whether we're given 6 months or 10 years, we will fill it. And so these are things that we want to think about. 90 days gives us a nice clarity and framework to be able to work within. We're also going to be able to optimize our resources. It's easier to say, well, I can give this much resource or this many resources within that 90 days. You're going to be more willing and likely to allocate the time that it takes. You'll get that boost of confidence because you can have regular celebrations. Again, back to the instant gratification, we can celebrate these milestones much easier within a shorter amount of time. And then from a structured learning standpoint, if a goal is missed, then you have this shorter time frame to be able to refine it, to reflect what went wrong, and then update that for the next one. In the military, we like to say after action report. So anytime I have a project or goals or a quarter, I like to do an after action report where I think about what went right, what went wrong, how would I like to change it? And so it allows me to continue to improve. And then the balance, I do this, and I'll talk maybe a little bit about my story at the end if we have time, but this year has been a really crazy year for me. And I have implemented various parts of my life domains, let's call it. And so I've been able to put more focus on business in one quarter, more focus on fitness in another quarter, more on my relationships in another one. And so I've been able to really balance it out throughout the entire year. And it just allows you that time to be able to do that from that balance standpoint. So if you're having a time For me, for example, I'm coming into a high health stage. For my Q4, I'm ending it with a bang, and I'm going to be taking my fitness to another level. And I'm using this quote, fitness before business. So where I normally would have all business mind, and I would let fitness go to the wayside or down on that priority chopping block, not anymore. Fitness is going up, back up to the top, and business might go to the second or third. So that's just an example of how you can navigate that. I also want to say that if you have any questions throughout, then feel free to raise your hand. I do, like, we have 15 people in the group, so it is manageable enough. And, I want to be able to answer questions that you have in the moment, but we will have a period at the end as well. So I love this. Allow myself to introduce myself, because it is important to know who you're talking to, the background, what I bring to the table, what qualifies me to run a goal setting workshop. My name is Victoria. I have almost 20 years of real estate investing experience, and I just completed my master's degree in organizational psychology. And this is psychology of the workplace. So I really understand human behavior in the workplace, motivation, how to build teams, how to select personnel, assess behavior, competencies, and do the goal setting. So I have over 10 years experience as a career and transition counselor. I have 22 years of experience military. I'm a senior officer in the Canadian Armed Forces, and that brings advanced leadership and instructional technique skills. I used to run national level courses for the military. Goal setting and instructing is my jam. So that kind of gives me the little bit of the qualifications to talk to you today. I have run many professionals through this type of work, and not only myself, but I do this for myself. I do this with my family. I do this with my friends, really anybody who lets me. I will do goal setting because I do truly believe in it. I have a real estate consulting company. I love coaching very specifically ambitious professionals who want to invest in not only real estate, but also themselves. I take a holistic approach. I'm here to simplify the shit out of creating that healthy, wealthy, wise kind of life. And because, on a real note, I have been consistently building this for myself since 2004 and really have a lot to give. I have been on the ups and the downs. And I think it's really important to understand that life is not straight. It is not completely up. There's lots of ups and downs, and we just have to go with the ebbs and the flows of everything that comes our way. And it's just a matter of how we respond to situations is going to dictate the outcome. It's not the actual thing that happens in our life. It's our response that will dictate that. So who came today with clear goals in mind? Did anybody? You can just do the raised hand function or raise your hand, but awesome. And for those of you who didn't, that's okay too. So this is what we're here for, and I'm going to give you easy frameworks to be able to help you get started. So if you have a piece of paper and you don't already, go ahead and grab one. But for those of you who have a piece of paper or maybe like a Word document, I want you to write down health, wealth, and relationships on that piece of paper. And it is not for me to tell you what's important to you in your life, but this has been very effective for not only myself, but many others. And really from just a basic human needs requirement, health, wealth, relationships are typically top of the list. So that's why I like to separate them into categories. And then I look at them like umbrellas. And there are many components under each umbrella that can fall under, but just from like an overarching and a way for us to simplify the process, those are the three that I would focus on. And because I'm a little bit of a psych nerd, I have to bring up Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Diana's laughing there. I see you. I'm sure you're aware of this as a business coach, Diana. But This is a theory of human motivation, okay? And really just like the overarching theme of it, it means that basic needs must be met before others are pursued. So we start at the very bottom, and this is not an accurate reflection of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but this is the best I could get from Canva's stock photos, and I don't want any copyright infringement issues. So I'm using Canva stock photos, and I will describe it to you. But physiological needs are at the bottom of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And really, this is your basic survival needs, okay? Your food, water, can you breathe, sleep, shelter, warmth. And it doesn't mean that they have to be at the high end. This is just basic, enough to survive. Once these needs are met, then you're going to feel safe enough to go into safety and security. And you need to make sure that your personal security is met. Do you have employment, resources? Is your health and your well-being needs met? Is your environment safe? So as you can see, you build upon, and the basic needs must be met first before you can move to the next one. So when you're thinking about this, is good not only for yourself, but also for those around you. And if you are an employer, if you have a team and something's off and it's not jiving, you want to investigate it a little bit. You want to see, are these needs being met? Because you can't go right to the top first without making sure the bottom is good and covered. After your safety, you're moving into social and belonging. And this is going to be where your relationships fall in. So the safety is where the health and the wellness, the wealth comes into that for the safety. People have different expectations for wealth and health, and that's going to be where it needs to be true to you. And then from that social side, that's going to be your relationships. I'm just going to admit there. So your relationships, your friendships, your partners, your community. Are you part of a social community? And I think a lot of you are, because I recognize a lot of faces. And for those of you who I don't recognize, well, now you're in our community. You're in my community, and you're going to stick around. And I hope that you will continue to interact. And I didn't even put my social media handles up, but come ahead, follow me on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, Victoria Cluney. And I'm happy for any one of you who are here. Feel free to add your handles in there. Maybe we'll wait till the end during the networking piece, and everybody can share and connect, and really just want to open doors for people. And then the last part, which isn't really what I'm here to talk about, but just we'll end it to, have that completion. The self is where it's your self-esteem, self-actualization. So this is things like your worth, your value, the way that you respect yourself, the confidence that you have, your personal growth. So once you have your basic needs met, then you can start working on that personal growth. And I hope a lot of you are here, and I would almost expect that because you are here today. So it's just a good way to understand maybe how we tick a little bit. So if you're struggling in one area, think about your basic needs. Are they being met? And if they're not, don't jump to the next one. Get that covered off, stabilize it. Think about a property. You want to stabilize it before you move on to the next. Goal setting is so important, and 80% of top performers in business regularly set clear goals for themselves. And to take it a next level, the people with written goals, they're 42% more likely to achieve them than those who don't write them down. And I really encourage you to write your goals down just for that fact. Even from a typing perspective, pen to paper is always going to be more effective than if you're typing it, but that's going to be your own choice. Just make sure that you write them down. So now this is when we're going to start doing a little bit of an exercise, and it's only going to be 3 to 5 minutes. I'm going to ask you, so if you choose to do the 3 areas that I recommend, health, wealth, and relationships, and you wrote them down on that piece of paper, I'm going to ask you to take 3 to 5 minutes total and think about for each section and just brain dump what you want to improve on in these areas. Don't overanalyze it. You're going to have time to adjust whatever you want on your own time, and try to be as brutally honest and genuine as possible. I'm not going to ask you to share these thoughts with anyone outside of yourself. And so I just want you to be as authentic as you possibly can. So we'll take 3 to 5 minutes, and I will jump back on. Yeah, I'll give you another minute and then we'll get going. Okay, everybody, how did that go? Did any goals change from the ones who brought goals in? You can kind of just, you can maybe raise your hand and I'll see you there, or just chime in. No goals changed? Okay. Anything pop up for anybody? And you don't have to say what it was, but did it help give a little bit more clarity to start like peeling the layers away and to start focusing and organizing your life? A little bit? Okay.
I would say yes.
Yeah. I find that there's so much in our worlds. And so if we can really break it into these 3 pillars of areas, within each pillar, it can just be boatloads of things that we want to tackle. And then, so here's another tip for you. And if you're struggling, if you just like dumped a ton of information down in each one, or maybe you want to even take more time to really unload everything that is in your mind, do a top 10 for every single one, and then start to prioritize which one is the most important, which one is the most critical for you, and then that's the one you want to look at. It's all just about, and it doesn't mean that the other ones aren't important and you're not going to get to them. It just means that this 90-day period is going to get focused on these most important items. So I'm now going to move into, I'm going to walk you through the SMART goals framework. And this has been the system that I have been using to help people, as I said, for over 10 years. And I use it for myself, and it absolutely works. There are a lot of different systems and frameworks out there, and they might work for you as well, because really it's about the essence of the process. And when you understand the essence of the process, you can adapt it the way that you need it to be. It's all about what it's going to take for you to take action. So we're going to walk through the steps that I will help guide you through and encourage you to write these down, but you can take time after all of this. And so I'm actually going to this right here, the SMART template. I'm going to be giving you this template. And I recommend that you take this for every single goal that you write down or that you have identified, that you're going to print that template and then use that for your goal. And so if you have, we'll start with health, for example. If you have a goal under health, pick like 1 to 2 tops. I would not go more than that, because if we're looking at those 3 areas, then you really want to keep that focus narrow, because it's going to take too much of your time and effort. And we'll go through that to figure out like what your capability is. But really, people think about these goals and they add way too much to their plate. So I challenge you to actually narrow it down further to, really 1 to 3 max that you're working on. And that's why I like to work in my umbrella. So if you have a health one, then pick your health one. And I will ask if somebody does want to share a goal, and I can facilitate walking you through it. And so people can see what that thought process is. And if nobody has a goal that they want to share, that is okay. Then I can use examples. Diana, I saw your hand there first. That's awesome. Thank you. So my recommendation is going to be that after this, you get a copy of this recording. And then after this, you go and you find somewhere, a quiet space, get out of distractions. If you find that you struggle with distractions at home, then remove yourself, go to a coffee shop, go rent an Airbnb, go to a cabin in the woods, wherever your happy place is that you're going to feel calm, clear-minded, relaxed. I love, like I did mine 2 days ago, sitting in front of my pool in the morning, having a cup of coffee. Nobody was around, and I got really clear and focused. I was starting to ramp up thinking about it, but I set time and I scheduled time for me to actually write everything out. And it's so rewarding when you feel that sense of accomplishment and then that direction. So I'm going to walk you through today, but your homework is going to be to take this on your own time and to go through this. So before I forget, I'm going to drop the link. This is me being very high tech right now in the chat. And that's going to give you the SMART goal template. Okay, so you can take that, you can print it. I will follow up with the email. So those of you who are watching at home, yes, you're going to get a copy of this. So for all of you, you will get a copy of this in the email. But if you want it now, it is a PDF. So you do have to print it and you have to handwrite it. That's part of my system forcing you. But Diana, if I can pick on you for a little bit, do you have a goal that you want to share with us? And we can kind of walk through the SMART framework.
Yes. So I'm going to pick a goal, and I bet there's other people that have a similar goal in health. And I don't know about anybody, but does anybody else want to lose a few pounds? Well, I do. 10 pounds. So
you know what? I'm going to be real with you. That's my goal. That's one of my.
There we go.
Yep. Yep. And that was because during my thesis, I had a period of hustle and my fitness declined dramatically and I put on 10 pounds. And so I'm getting rid of that. And I love this goal.
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. So let's start with, and I might throw in some real estate examples as well, just in case people have some real estate specific goals. But the very first thing that we want to think about is the S, specific. You have to clearly define the goal in simple terms. So I love that Diana started out with exactly what she wanted to do, lose 10 pounds. Some people will say lose weight or buy real estate. You have to get specific. And so lose 10 pounds. That's it. You can take it even one step further if you wanted, Diana, if you really wanted to geek out on it, and you could talk about losing or gaining muscle mass and losing body fat, or, there's lots of ways that you can, or maybe it was specific to inches that you had, if there was certain things that you wanted to do. But 10 pounds, I think, is a great place to start from being specific. Now you need to address the question, who is involved? What do I want to accomplish? Why is it important? I think about the 5 W's, the who, what, when, where, I guess, and the how, the 4 and the H. But when you go through that, you have to think, so who is involved? Is there anybody that you need to support you with this? Are you thinking personal trainer, family members? Can you think off the top of your head who you need to have in your corner to help support you?
Well, I would say most, it's my responsibility. And so I think one of the biggest things, there's only 2 of us at home. And, hubby's great for saying, or I'll say, what's for dinner tonight? And he'll go, oh, how about hamburgers, French fries, and onion rings? And I'll go, oh yeah, that sounds really good. Yeah. So I think I need to get him on board saying, okay, hamburgers is fine, but let's have salad with it instead.
Exactly. So having that support at home is going to be paramount. And so who's at home? Sometimes people need support as in, don't bother me during this time because I want to work out. So you need to get people on board that is in your life. I'm in the military, right? And so for me, I prioritize fitness, and any job that I go into, I tell my supervisor plus my subordinates, I am not available before 9 o'clock because I'll be at the gym. And I need them to respect that boundary for me to be able to show up at my best. And so you have to get everybody on board so that they're not distracting you or influencing you. And it's going to just set us up for success. On the real estate side, think of your team. Do you need a realtor, investor focused realtor? Do you need a bookkeeper? Do you need a lawyer? Who do you need on your team? And then the other W that I really want to emphasize is the why. This is what's going to keep you going when times are tough. It's really important that you highlight that why, the W. And Diane, I don't know if this is too personal, and please, just give me a blank or something if you want me to move on, but what is the why for you?
Well, the why for me is probably, there's several reasons. I have a new grandson and I need to be able to get up and down on the floor with him. And I tried on a dress the other day and I went, oh my God, where did that 10 pounds come from? All I have to do is remember that, what I saw in the mirror, and I go, yeah.
Yeah, I love that, like, you brought your grandson up first, and that was a big game changer in my life, thinking about my future self and thinking about how I want to show up for my adult child when he becomes an adult, and then for his children. And I want to be that badass grandmother that gets up and down, no problem, that goes in and, maybe does a 5K here or hikes there. And I want health and vitality. Weight used to be about aesthetics for me. And that's where the yo-yos came in, because that was based on motivation. It was based on an event. It was yada, yada. But my future is depending on my level of fitness, my health, and vitality. And so deep rooting your why is going to help you stay focused during, when that box of cookies comes across your desk, or maybe your husband slips up and he does recommend something, right? So that's when we need to get back to the whys. I love that, Diana. And okay, so we'll move on to measurable now. And I think maybe one more thing I want to say about the specific from a real estate perspective is if you want specific, you need, instead of I want to buy real estate, you want to be very specific about what type of real estate you want to buy, in what market do you want to buy it. And so you can say like a purpose-built sixplex in Ottawa, something like that. You want to get very specific. So measurable. Milestones, assigning those milestone criteria to be able to track your progress. I keep talking about this instant gratification. We love gratification. And so assigning milestones for you gives you something to look forward to measure, and to be able to track it. It's really important that we can see. Our brains lie to us all the time. They trick us all the time to thinking that we are achieving what we think that we're achieving. But if you actually look at it from a factual perspective, we're not. We're not at all. We always want to think the best of ourselves. That's how we survive. We're always thinking, okay, you know, I'm trying really hard. I'm doing everything possible. I keep hitting all these walls. It's not my fault. It is your fault. It is all of our faults. I cut out all excuses. When something doesn't work, it is my fault. I take full responsibility, full ownership. Maybe there were things at play that really were shitty and made it difficult for me, but I need to take full ownership because I'm the only one. I can only control my own behavior and my own actions. And sometimes it's just not fair. And that's just how it is. And so we need to cut out excuses and assign these milestones. Okay, so Diana, what is a timeline that you're thinking about for 10 pounds?
Well, we're talking about 90 days. So I thought 90 days. If I could lose like 3 pounds a month, I'd be pretty close to it, right?
Yeah, yeah. And that's totally reasonable. So then what you want to do is assign that month. So are we thinking the 31st of every month, 30th or 31st, right? And then how are we going to track it? And maybe you want to take it even a step further and break down the month. And so 3 pounds, break that down into 10 days at a time. So then every 10 days, you want to make sure that you're losing 1 pound. And that way you can track your progress to make sure that you are staying on track. And same with the real estate. If you want to purchase a 6-unit in 90 days, well, you got to break down the steps. How many properties do you need to underwrite within that amount of time? How many properties do you need to walk through? How many properties do you need to put offers on? It's not going to be your first. It's not going to be one property that you underwrite, walk through, offer, and that gets accepted. And if that is the case, you probably offered too much. Or it's just like a real freak of nature that'll never happen again. So you need to break down those steps. I would be underwriting 3 properties per day and maybe 1 walkthrough every 3 days, 1 offer a week. I used to do that. Genuinely, I did that. And that was how I was able to accumulate properties and get so many good deals because I shot my shot with a lot. I didn't mean to rhyme. Perfect. So how much, how many, how will I know when the goal is accomplished? You'll know, Diana, because if you're tracking every 10 days, 9-10 days, and you don't lose that 1 pound, then you'll be able to track whether or not you're going to meet your goal, whether you have to adjust the behavior, whether you have to adjust the goal. You have to be able to keep those milestones and then being able to measure it. So you actually have an idea. So you're not surprised at the end of 90 days that you're still in the same place. You might recognize when you plateau. That happens quite frequently when we're losing weight. So next we'll move to achievable. We want to make sure the goal is realistic given our available resources and constraints. Thinking about your resources and your constraints, is 90 days achievable for 10 pounds?
I would think it's very reasonable.
I think so. I picked it too, so that's why I said it.
Okay.
What if you wanted to do 30 pounds? Is that available? Like, could you?
Could I? No.
That's right. Probably not. But some people do. I mean, think of MMA fighters, power lifters. They drop weight real fast in a certain amount of time. It's possible. It's not very realistic. And it's not available given your resources and your constraints. So that's what we want to think. It's not to say like we can't do anything. I really truly believe that we could do whatever we put our mind to it, but we need to be realistic given who we are and what we have. For example, with real estate investing, you want to get into maybe bigger properties, different types of asset class that you don't have any experience in. So is it reasonable or realistic given your available resources? If the answer is no, then ask the question, well, how? So what do I need? Do you need coaching? Do you need education? Do you need support? And if that's the case, then you understand what you need to do in order to achieve it, or you need to adjust your goal. So it's all about identifying what your needs are, what your resources are. And it's not to say you can't do it. It's just to be realistic that are you able to do it? And who do you need in your corner? So you can go back to that specific and you can say, okay, now I need a coach, or now I need this much time to be able to educate myself because I'm going to, dive into this area. So, okay, relevant. Determine if this is actually worthwhile or the right time. Does this match other efforts or needs? Where does this land on the pecking order? So for you, Diana, if we're going to have Christmas coming in. So this is going to be, one of these things that you need to think about is like all these activities and events that are coming up. So is this worthwhile to you to be disciplined enough to be able to lose the 10 pounds over and above all the fun and yummy food that we're going to be faced with in the next couple months? Thanksgiving is around the corner.
So maybe I need to readjust my milestones so that I've lost my 10 pounds before Christmas.
Maybe. Quite possibly. But then you want to maintain it. But
right.
Yeah, it's the things to think about. And I think about this because I love food, and Thanksgiving and Christmas. This is a really hard time to put these goals in place, but I'm going to go back to my why. And I'm going to go back to the feeling of how I'm going to feel when I achieve this and what that's going to mean to me. And there are ways that I can adjust and adapt. And so same thing for real estate for everybody, right? Is this something that you have capacity to take on? Think about your lifestyle, think about your family, think about your responsibilities. Is this something that you can juggle in this amount of time? And you need to be able to adjust what you're doing so that it aligns with your actual life, your current life. We want to work towards our goals and our future, but we also need to be realistic about our current life so that we don't have all these conflicts. So is it going to move me closer to my bigger goals? And then the final one is time bound. So setting a clear start and finish date. The 90 days is helpful, but this is also for anybody that wants to work outside the 90 days. I set goals 10 years, 5 years, 1 year, and then I work in my 90 days. And I'm already excited for 2024. And I'm going to be doing something that is probably going to be bigger than this for us to actually go through our 2024 goals and set ourselves up and think about the 4 quarters and break those down. So what do you want to achieve and what is the deadline? This kind of easy for us. If you are working on the 90 days, then maybe you want to set yourself up your start date. Today is Monday. Maybe you want your start date to be Thursday to give yourself a couple of days to really organize your thoughts, go out and buy the meals that you want to buy or plan out so that you are prepared to hit the ground running. Any questions on that? On the SMART goals? Does this seem like something that you can do and take with you outside of this environment and then be able to work through it? Awesome. Yeah. It doesn't need to be complicated. I don't want to go into great detail with this because I want you to stay just like, there's a saying, complexity is the enemy of execution. So when you make things too complex, then people won't execute it. So keep it simple. Just be specific and be real about it. Has anybody heard of Atomic Habits? I'm going to say most of you have. I see a lot of nodding heads. Okay. So I have condensed the takeaways from Atomic Habits. I recommend that you get this book regardless and you read it again and again. It is a great book. And I actually saw somebody put in the chat another book recommendation. So please, if you have book recommendations, this is a great place to share that and throw that in the chat. Keep it goal oriented if you can, so we stay on theme, but sharing is caring. When it comes to Atomic Habits, what I really love about this book is it gives you tangible things to help set yourself up for success. We are primitive minds in a modern world. And what that means is a lot of our behaviors are based on evolution, based on things that we needed for survival hundreds and thousands of years ago that we don't need anymore. But we're still so hardwired and we don't understand it. So we just go through the motion. When we can understand and we can implement strategies to help, again, trick our brains into being able to take what we want to do into action, then it's going to be a game changer for you, because often we're just surviving and we don't even know why we do certain things. It's habits. And so we need to create these healthier habits. James starts off with the 4 laws of behavior change. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this, and I want you to think about your own life while I'm talking to you and take notes on things that you want to change and implement. So the very first thing is about making it obvious. So designing your environment so that it provides clear cues for your habits. And one of the things that he talks about is habit stacking. Have you heard of habit stacking? You take a habit that you do. Brushing your teeth is a common one that we use because hopefully everybody does that at the same time of the day. And so you can stack it with a current new habit. And so maybe, Diana, for you, it could be brushing your teeth and either like looking at a reminder about your whys and your goals. And so it's going to help solidify. So you're going to implement a habit into that. Or for somebody else, brushing your teeth and listening to a podcast for education or training that you're doing, or running numbers. Brush teeth and then I run numbers. And so you're kind of stacking these habits. You also want to make it attractive. So by bundling this action with something that you want to do, and that's going to help you actually do it. For me personally, I love listening to audiobooks and podcasts, but I rarely have time to just sit and listen. So I need to do something that I don't need my brain for, so I can listen. Running, that's kind of my audiobook, or driving. So running is aligned with the losing weight. Then I'm going to stack that with listening to one of my favorite audiobooks. And then that's going to be give me enjoyment. So I want you to think about what you could stack with to make it attractive, making it easy. I did this morning. So reducing friction. I cursed myself because we came back from something late last night and I wanted to work out in the morning. My husband didn't have a good sleep. He normally gets up with me, and so I don't have to worry about lights and whatnot. Well, I had to like rummage through the dark to get my gym clothes out, and it was too easy not to do it. And I said to myself, like, I need to start laying out my gear. I need to make this so easy that I just get up out of bed and I throw on my gym clothes and I just go for my workout. Make it easy for yourself. Set yourself up the night before for whatever it is and get into that type of habit so that you take away all the friction. One other thing is you want to actually add friction to things that would be anti your goal. So Diana, if you have treats in the house, then go and put them somewhere out of sight, out of mind, in a basement, far away in a corner that you have to really like consciously go and get. And then you want to make it satisfying. So give yourself reinforcements. Those are really great ways, again, for that instant gratification. What are ways that you can reinforce your behavior? If it is real estate related, then if you run numbers, and maybe not every day, but put little ticks so that you're tracking. And if you run numbers every day for an entire week, give yourself a reward. And now make sure that reward is not counter active to what your actual goals are. So don't give yourself treats, Diana, if that's like for not eating the treats, unless you want to do a cheat meal, but however you want to identify that. Or say spending money. If you're a real estate investor, don't go out and buy those designer handbags and shoes. You need that money for your investments and your down payments, but find little things that can give you the reward. So your body is just knowing that you're doing something special for yourself. And now from the power of small changes, you'll focus on that 1%. This is a common phrase that we have even in fitness. It's like 1% stronger every day. Don't think that you need to hit the ground running and already be perfection. As long as you're better, that's all we ask for. It's just 1% better every day. Don't be so hard on yourself. That's when you stop actually putting the work in, because you start doing that negative self-talk. I can't do this. It's too hard. It's never going to happen. You want to just, was I better than yesterday? That's all I need to do, is I just need to show up and just be a little bit better. From a role of identity, this is really big. This is something that I embody and have experienced myself. You want to build habits that match your desired identity. And that's going to be a big part of your thoughts. Who are you? Who do you want to be? For Diana, it's going to be, what does the person that is 10 pounds less, who's able to jump up and down with her grandkids, what would she do in this situation? Would she eat, all the cookies and eat the hamburger helper, the casseroles and all of that? Or would she value her body more than the temptations? And so we want to embody the identity of the person that we desire. If you're an entrepreneur or you're struggling right now to become a real estate investor, you are a real estate investor. That's it. You are a real estate investor, so show up like a real estate investor would show up. Don't think about yourself as one day. You are, and just start showing up as that person. And it's going to be a game changer for you, because you're going to start thinking like an investor. You're going to make decisions like an investor. So embody, be the person that you want to be. And then sooner or later, you're not even going to have to think about it. You just are. The motion versus action. This is important. This is, people heard of analysis paralysis. If you're in the real estate world, you've definitely heard of analysis paralysis. That's what this is. The motion is the analysis, and then the paralysis is the action. Don't get stuck in just the motion of just setting things up all the time, but never actually implementing it. Done is better than perfect. Just do it all the time. I start things all the time that I don't know what I'm doing, but I have the confidence that I can figure it out along the way. And I also understand that I'm going to make mistakes, that's how you master any skill, is by making mistakes. So just get going and get started. Who cares about the mistakes that you're going to make? Let go of the ego. We worry so much about what other people think, and we hold ourselves back. But if you realize how little people actually think about you, you would never make life-changing decisions based on a fleeting thought from some stranger or some person that you barely know, or that isn't doing what you're doing, that is just judgmental. And again, that goes back to, evolution. My mind blanked for a second. In the old days, caveman days, if we weren't accepted by our group, then we were outcasted and we wouldn't survive. So we really care deeply about acceptance and being in a community. But that's not the case anymore. If one community doesn't accept you, there are 100,000 million other communities out there that will. So go find your community of people that will accept you. The 2-minute rule. So this is, I say this lightly, but really, like, if it's a new habit, don't make it big. So something that can be within less than 2 minutes to get started, just to start. We just completed a 10 MAD challenge. So we call it 10 minutes a day of fitness in my coaching group. And it was amazing because it took the pressure off people to do an hour of fitness. It was just show up for 10 minutes. We all have 10 minutes that we can give. We talked about habit stacking already, but then again, just to reinforce that, stack new habits on already established ones. So you don't have to remind yourself and you don't have to forget. You already have the habit in place. So find out what you do on a regular basis and then add that to it. Changing environments. I'll give you guys a little bit of a secret, something I don't share too much, but I used to be a smoker. I started smoking when I was 12 years old, and I smoked until I was 24. And when you join the infantry at 18, that is a habit that is highly enforced, not enforced, but reinforced, I think is the word I need. I used to smoke a pack a day. I was nuts. And it was the hardest thing I ever did in my entire life, was to quit smoking. But I did it because I was able to change my environment. And so when I went into a new environment, I was no longer a smoker. Because the problem is, we go back to our identity. So if your identity is XYZ, the person that eats all the cookies in this environment, you need to change that behavior and you need to take on a new environment. So try to put yourself in new environments and then reinvent your behavior in that environment. And that's going to start to reinforce it. So the Goldilocks rule, that's just about working in the manageable zone, just manageable. Don't overextend yourself. That's not maintainable. The hustle culture, that's a thing that is starting to get that pushback. And so that I have a hard time because I don't want to talk about hustle culture. I am a bit of a hustler, but that is my personality. It isn't everybody's personality. I've always been this way. We go back to that extreme reference. I love to work. I love to, I have that drive, but not everybody does. So you need to work in your capacity. I also know when I've had enough. I also know when I crash and I need to make that space. So when you understand that, then it's going to be really important to work in that zone. And then the social and cultural forces. This is about surrounding yourself with people who model your desired habits. What I love so much about this is it normalizes the behavior. We step out of this world. If we're real estate investors and we go into, we call them the civilians, they think we're crazy. If we start talking about what we're doing, that's crazy. That's way too risky. It is too intense. Nobody does that. And so what does that make us feel? Start doubting our behavior. When you walk into a room like an investor meetup that's happening this Wednesday at 6:30 Canada. So if anybody's coming to that, you're going to be in a room full of women who is doing big things in the world of real estate. I remember my first meetup. I was sitting beside somebody who's, building a subdivision. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh, I can do that. And it normalizes the behavior. And now we're really good friends. And now it's like, oh yeah, okay, of course you're building a subdivision. And now I'm doing this. And so you want to surround yourself with the people that are doing the things that you want to do. And never miss twice. I want you all to make a commitment and put it in the chat that you will not miss twice. You'll get back up on that horse. It's okay if you fall. That's going to happen. But if you're committing to your goals, don't miss it twice. Don't let yourself get back into that habit. So, are you ready to let go of your excuses and justify your behavior? If there's a Jim Rohn quote, I love it. If you want something to happen, you will find a way. And if not, you'll find an excuse. Everything that you say for why you can't do something is literally an excuse, but that's okay. Sometimes an excuse is just an excuse and we need to accept it. We just don't want to trick ourselves to say we can't do something. It just means we didn't prioritize it. If I didn't work out that day because I didn't have time, it's not because I couldn't do it. It's because I put everything else above that priority. So we need to be really real with ourselves when we're talking about why we're not achieving what we want to achieve. I just didn't follow through. I wasn't motivated or I wasn't disciplined enough. Once you start being real with yourself, then you can start to overcome the challenges that you choose to. Not every challenge needs to be overcome. I pick and choose my battles. And so really it's about closing out this year on a high note to be successful and set yourself up for 2024. I know that you are all capable. Even if I don't know you personally, you are all capable of creating that life that you want. And I know it's not going to be easy and it's going to take a lot of commitment. I'm scared of some of the goals that I've set for myself this quarter, but I'm going to do it because my why is strong and I'm testing my discipline. And so for me, the sad part is that the majority of you will set goals and you won't follow through. And I'm going to put that personal challenge to you to look to yourself and not be one of those people. And I will see you, I hope, in 2024, and you will tell me how your goals went for 2023, or we'll talk about it. I really want us to be able to continue to share and talk about what we're doing and help motivate, inspire, and stay accountable.